Okay, you might not think you're overtraining. After all, you're not doing 100-mile weeks, you're not doing double runs every day, you're not even close to where you were in a previous training block when everything was going great. So how could you be overtraining? But that's exactly the trap. Overtraining isn't just about high mileage, it's about how often you're training hard. And if you're constantly loading intensity without enough recovery, then yes, you're overtraining, even if your volume looks reasonable. I'm Lee Grantham, a coach and professional ultra runner who went from running a marathon in 4 hours and 25 minutes to running a marathon in 2 hours and 21 minutes and representing my country at both the marathon and the ultra marathon. And initially, all I did was overtrain. I just equated input versus output, and I thought nobody can outwork me, and therefore I'm gonna put everything into my running and I'll become a faster runner. You've probably got that mindset. Somebody who's competitive, at least competitive with themselves, that's in the same headspace, and that's gonna get you into trouble. When I corrected that, and I'm gonna show you exactly how I corrected it, and what it looked like before and after, then I was able to go 48 minutes faster for my marathon in just 11 months. It took me a few years to start training smart, but if you want to jump those steps and not make those mistakes that I made, then book a coaching call in the link in the description and let's see if we're a coaching match. Okay, so here's the problem, and here's what I hear all the time. I'm only doing 50K a week, or I'm only doing 30 miles a week. How can I be overtraining, but I keep getting injured? I also hear, this is much less than I used to train, or the worst of all, other people train way more than I do. Why am I getting injured? And you already know this. Your body doesn't care how many miles somebody else is running. And it doesn't care how many miles you've run in the past. What it cares about, if it does care, is where you're at right now and where you're trying to get to. To not be overtraining, we've got to get a few things in place. You really want your sleep under control, both the quantity and the quality. You want your stress reduced. You're in high stress and you're in high training. It often doesn't matter if you've got the perfect training schedule, your body is just gonna not move forward in the same way, or you're gonna take back steps in the form of injuries. It's exactly the same with sleep. If you're consistently not getting enough sleep or not getting enough quality sleep, you cannot load that training onto your body. It's gonna be weaker and it's not gonna be able to hold that volume that you need to gradually build in order to get yourself to a place where you can then load quality training. And it's exactly the same with diet. If you take two athletes, both of them are doing 30 miles or 50K a week. One of them, their diet is absolutely perfect, and the other is eating junk food all the time. It's obvious, we know who's gonna move forward furthest and fastest. So then we need to look at what makes a session hard, or what makes a session, more importantly, tough on the body. And if you look at the 5 quickest ways to get injured, it's too much volume too quickly. It's too much of a long run, so too much in one day too quickly. It's too much speed too quickly, or too much hills too quickly, or too much of a different terrain too quickly. So if you've been used to doing all your miles on the treadmill and then you get outside, you're gonna have problems. If you've been used to doing all your miles on the tarmac and then you move to the trail, and that's technical trail, you're gonna have problems, and vice versa. So we don't want to increase any of those factors too quickly. And if you think about it, your volume of the week, the total volume of the week, if we just raise the long run, that's gonna raise both the long run day and the total volume of the week. And what makes a session hard is intensity or duration. So 20 times 1 minute doesn't sound like much. You can make that as hard or as easy as you want. Think about the extremes. You can go out and run your marathon pace, 20 times 1 minute, and that will be the easiest session in the world if you've got some training behind you. Whereas if you run 20 times 1 minute as fast as you possibly can, and it's one of the hardest sessions elite runners can do, 20 times 1 minute or 20 times 400 meters, exactly the same, can be the hardest session for elite athletes. And typically for me, I'm hitting the interval session in a way that takes the most out of my body in the week. That's the session that takes the most out of my body. In a similar way, if we insert hills, and initially you've got to insert that skill of hill running, and I ask you to do something simple like 20 times 1 minute again, but up a 5% gradient, that's a tough session. If you go at it too hard, you don't let the pace come to you and you don't go by effort. Because if you think about it, you're hitting the muscles in a different way. The Achilles and the soleus muscle are having to work harder than when you're running over the flat. And hopefully The glutes and the hamstrings are getting a stronger workout too, but over the weeks and months, we've got to let those hill sessions come to us. Duration is also a factor that will make it hard. If you go out there and do a 2 or 3 hour run, even if that's in zone 2, there's going to be some muscle fatigue there. And so even a long, slow distance, easy run, easy long run needs respecting in terms of how many days recovery that you need after that in order to go fast again. And I'll give you an extreme of this. This is exactly what I used to do as a kid. Growing up, East Cheshire Harriers, Tuesday night interval session, Thursday night fartlek session, and with a competitive group. So you're constantly racing each other, competing with each other, trying to prepare for a Saturday race over cross country, over the road or track, and then a Sunday long run. So within a 6-day training week, 4 of the sessions are hard. Now we didn't know it back then, but that is just too much, too frequent. And in total, if you look at that week, interval session might take you total of 40 minutes. Long run might have taken us a total of 90 minutes. Cross country race, total of between 15 and 20 minutes. And a fartlek session, similar to the interval session, between 40 minutes and an hour. And so you look at that and you think, in the grand scheme of things, not even 4 hours hard. But what is that as a percentage of the rest of the running when I'm only running another 2 runs, another 2 recovery easy runs for the rest of the week? Nowhere near 80-20, is it? And that is just a rough guide of where a professional athlete should be. And again, if we look at the extreme, if you've got a top class athlete doing 100 miles a week, he's doing a midweek interval session, total 5 miles hard, and at the weekend, he might do 15 miles with inside a long run at marathon pace or at race pace effort. Then he's hitting that 80-20, but he's able to do much more quality because the total volume is there and he's gradually built over the years to get to that point. Remember, we're not chasing a magic number, and we're certainly not chasing a round figure. It's one of the biggest mistakes that people fall into. They're desperate. 40 miles a week I'm doing, 60 miles a week. I'm doing 100 kilometers a week. I'm not saying it's only quality that counts. Quantity counts as well. We've got to build that aerobic base. And without that engine, without that aerobic base, we can't build the layers safely on top. What you've also got to think about is not only are we damaging the muscles, and that's great because we're stressing the muscles, we're stretching that elastic band so we can stretch it further next time. And that's great so long as we give it sufficient recovery and nutrients to be able to recover. And that's the super compensation that we're looking for to move forward. If we don't give it enough recovery time, it's a waste. And not only that, it's mentally draining for you if you're doing all the hard work, and you're definitely doing the hard work, but you're not training methodically enough where you're managing that energy distribution and doing the work at the right time in the week when you've had sufficient rest and recovery. I see this all the time. There's a myth that if you're in marathon training, you should be tired all the time. And it's about being tired all the time, doing the sessions, ticking the sessions off, getting to the start line and trying to run your fastest race. It's just not the case. We shouldn't be tired all the time. And although we've got to build that fatigue resistance, it's about freshening up after a big session, enhancing that recovery with active recovery, rest days, good diet, nutrition, and being ready to hit that next session where you're gonna get that super compensation hard enough to gain that super compensation over the weeks and months. Remember, and I say this a lot, we're training to be as fast as we possibly can on one morning, on one day. We're not training to ride the Tour de France or to run the Tour de France. You're not training to be consecutively good day after day, week after week, month after month. When I look at my specific marathon blocks, I give myself 13 weeks to the day before a marathon to prepare. And within that 13 weeks, I've got 10 days as a taper. So that gives me 11 and a half weeks. And I'm hitting 22 sessions, interval sessions, long runs, specific to the race goal. And I know that if I hit 80% of those sessions, the plan is laid out in a way that I'm in PB shape. And it's not necessarily that the rest is junk miles, absolutely not. The rest, the recovery runs, the easy runs, that is the stuff, that is the magic stuff that is getting me from big session to big session, fresh and fit enough to really hit it. Now, let's say I've just done a specific long run and that's targeted towards marathon pace. There's a big chunk of marathon pace within the run. I'm fatigued afterwards. I'm hitting that recovery window. I'm eating really well after. I'm taking care of my body. I'm wiped out for the rest of the day to the point where I'll have a siesta. and then later I'll get to sleep, and as high quality of sleep and as long as possible. Exactly the same with the interval session. Once I get to a big interval session, there's a lot of volume there and it's at a high pace, yeah, I'm wiped out afterwards, to the point where if somebody asks me to go for coffee or lunch or dinner, I'm not interested. All I care about is recovering, lying down as much as I can, sitting if I need to, and letting the next day be a complete rest day and respecting that rest day. So why does this matter over time? If you look at the stats, 1 in every 2 runners is injured in a 12-month period. Basically, if you don't get injured and you're doing the right things well, you're going to move forward and you're going to continue that positive relationship with running, which meditative, clears the mind, puts you in a great space to tackle your work and the rest of your life, and you're moving forward towards the race that you're preparing for. If I hit the strength session too hard and I'm not recovered in time for Wednesday interval session, that's going to be a reduced quality session. What do I mean by that? I'm not going to be able to hit my paces, and therefore I'm not going to get what I'm looking for from that session. And the competitive side of me is going to want to hit those paces. So all of a sudden you're competing with yourself, especially with the lack of experience. You're trying to hit those paces, and so you're striving. The risk reward for the session goes through the roof. And what that does in turn, if I hit that, or if I overhit the interval session and I'm not ready for the long run, all of a sudden I'm in this pattern. And I might be okay doing that for 1 or 2 weeks. But if you go into 3 or 4 weeks, you're digging yourself into a hole and it's not going to end well. And the quickest way running will show you that is in the form of a niggle or an injury. And again, we want forward movement. We want to progress towards the goal. So psychologically, it's great. We don't want to be taking back steps. There are a lot of off-the-shelf running plans out there that are designed for professional athletes. Imagine you had 9 hours of quality sleep every single night. All you needed to care about is getting faster. You needed to hit the gym, specifically as a runner, and then you needed to hit those quality sessions. Because your recovery is optimized and all you need to do is focus on recovery and running and gym, all of a sudden you can fit more into your week, and your volume is bigger because you've not got a full-time job. You're not working 40, 50 hours a week. You haven't got to be traveling to business conferences and meetings every other week. You've not even got a family most of the time to look after, or children. Your sole purpose, and it is your job, is to win races or do really well. And I can tell you this from experience, even with that, with my only job to get faster at a specific distance, marathon, ultra marathon, even with that, 2 sessions per week. Wednesday, interval session. Sunday, long run and a strength session. Couple of recovery runs, couple of easy runs. It's what you do in those key sessions that really counts. If I was to add a full-time job, family, personal commitments, travel, etc. on top of that, the vast majority of these online plans couldn't follow. And I'd be foolish to follow them because the chances of getting injured or taking setbacks way too high. Remember, we're trying to set ourselves up for success. Fitness, physically move ourselves forward, physiologically move ourselves forward, but also mentally, and build that confidence to get to start line and execute the pace that we want. So if we're overdoing it in training and training too hard, too frequently, and therefore it leads to we're not hitting paces and not even able to hold marathon pace for 10 kilometers inside quite a short long run, how am I going to be able to hold that for the entire duration of the marathon? If you start to see that lack of confidence, not only is it going to start playing with your mind and you'll readjust the goal down, you're not able to get anywhere near your potential. And then what it typically leads to is, okay, I'm going to go out and do the next session. I'm definitely going to hit pace on the next session. And that's going to give me the confidence that I need in order to get to race start and execute. And then you get injured or you get a setback through illness. We've got to set ourselves up for success. And to do that, you need the right plan that works for you as an individual, that fits into your life and is working hard and distributing that energy when you need to during the week. So here's the takeaway. You're not overtraining because you're doing too much mileage. You might be overtraining because you've not gradually ramped up enough. You're most likely overtraining because you're doing too much too frequently and you're not giving the respect to the recovery that it deserves. Remember, it doesn't matter whether you're aiming for 220, 210, 3 hours, 4 hours for the marathon. You're trying to do with your body essentially what a professional athlete does when you look at your disadvantage of having everything else in your life that you need to cope with. And so if you're trying to do that and you want to be successful, we've got to be making the best use of our time, and we've got to be doing the right things consistently well. If you want to train smart and do the right things consistently well and have a training schedule that fits perfectly into your life at the right intensity for you based on where you're at right now and where you want to get to, then please get in contact by booking a call in the description. And if you want a proven method to get to a sub 20 minute 5K or a sub 40 minute 10K, here you go.